Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the series. I had a great time filming the last video on how to survive your first day, and it seems that you guys did too. So I figured, why not just turn this into a series where we break down every day in your first week of survival in Project Zomboid. Obviously, I wouldn't really advise watching this video unless you've seen the day one video, which is shown on screen now and is linked in the description. Anyway, no more chatter from me, let's just jump back in and get you on the path to surviving day 2 in build 42 for Project Zomboid. Okay, so day 2 of our 7-day playthrough. Now, bodies. I think we should focus on try and move some of these if we can. The problem with this process is in build 42, this builds a little bit of muscle strain. So we do want to keep an eye on it because I really don't want to wear my character out already. We may just have to take a break. Now, interestingly, between day 1 and day 2, the developers pushed a hotfix for build 42, and in that hotfix, muscle strain with melee weapons has been reduced from 1.0 to 0.6 as a base value. That's something to keep in mind, that muscle strain is now not quite as harsh when you're using melee weapons as it was on the initial release if you've been playing since launch. We have plenty of food. We definitely want to throw some of this in the freezer. Again, I'm throwing basically everything in the freezer that I don't want to use within like the next 24 hours or so. Everything else is going in the containers. I'm trying to keep things relatively organized just so that I can find it easily and I'm not wasting any time. In terms of what we're looking for loot wise, things are going to be very similar to what we were looking for on day 1. Realistically, we are looking for tools more than anything and a working vehicle. And this was something that like we didn't talk about much about in day 1 because we were focusing on looting sort of the immediate area. We want to be putting a lot of focus on vehicles because vehicles are, I would say, like the single largest progressive barrier in Project Zomboid. Once you have a vehicle, the game really opens up. Well, we are looking for tools and things like that. We also want to keep our eyes out for a vehicle that works, and we've got one here. I think we checked this one and it wasn't quite drivable. Now, I could have opened this window to get through here, but something I do want to explain very quickly. Broken windows. If you want to safely remove broken glass from a window, which you should be doing because climbing through it will damage you, make sure you have an implement in your primary, like in your hand. As long as you have a weapon in your hand, your character will use that weapon to clear the window. If you don't have a weapon in your hand, then you risk injury. The same goes for actually breaking the window. We want to break the window with a weapon. It's perfectly safe to do so as long as you have a weapon. If you don't, your character's going to use their elbow and risks injury. So we always want to do that where we can. It is 10 a.m. Sleeping pills could be handy. These are like an optional medical that we want to try and pick up where we can because keeping a sleep schedule is super important. I'm going to grab this ham. We can snack on that throughout the day. We have a can opener already. We do, so we don't need that. A bottle opener would be useful, sure. In build 42, it's also worth me mentioning that there are attachments for your keyring that can function as a bottle opener as well. You can also find I believe it's called a handy knife that functions as a bottle opener, a can opener. I believe it functions as a knife and a corkscrew as well. Lost track of one of these keys already, which is not ideal. So I got to remember that. Mark this as R4. Most keys that you find in buildings like this are generally for the same building. You see we have the unlock button here. But the ones we find on zombies, obviously the zombie might have wandered. I do want to try and get into some garages, and I think these garages, that one down there had a window. I don't know if this one does, so we might not be able to get in there. But I also want to keep my eyes on the time because we're coming around to when Life and Living is going to kick off again, and I do want to try and catch that. This is mostly an empty house. Make sure to fill up our water bottles regularly. Now, when I mentioned finding a vehicle earlier, an alternative build that we could have gone for our character that is a very popular one for new starter players is Burglar, because they can hotwire vehicles, which is a huge bonus to have early on. If you can't find keys for cars, obviously the Burglar is just able to get around that. Can be a massive help, but I would argue that if you're a brand new player, or even a returning player with the introduction of things like muscle strain and the new zombie aggro, really we want to be focusing on fundamentals. The fundamentals on combat, the fundamentals of zombie aggro, and I would say it is perfectly reasonable for us to die many times over while learning this process in the first couple of days of a playthrough and actively trying to learn than it is to try avoid combat as much as you can, avoid zombies, find a car, you know, you set up at the perfect safe house, and then the first zombie fight you take 14 days in and you lose everything, right? It is a much more important part of the process to just learn how to play first before worrying about setting up at the perfect safe house. Now it is getting around to midday. There was no TV in that house that I saw, so we're gonna head back to one where I know there was a TV, and we're gonna catch Life and Living. Now, just to save a little bit of time, if I've got any books on me, I think I've only got the one. We can read that book, and it's perfectly viable for you to watch Life and Living and read a book at the same time. And we can sit down now, so why don't we use that feature? So we're on intermediate carpentry, and we'll just sit here until this show finishes, gain some more carpentry for our character, and then we're gonna try and focus on looting some garages, try and get our hands on some tools, some garages, some sheds, try and get our hands on some hammers, some axes, some saws, things like that. There are a lot of early game items that you'll be trying to get your hands on. Can be quite difficult to track sometimes. So if you find yourself, you know, losing track at all, after all, you know, you're going to be looking for things like can openers, bottle openers, axes, saws, hammers, the bottle to hold your water, backpacks, bandages, medical supplies, all of that stuff. If you would rather, you can always just write up yourself a little notepad document, or even just scribble it down on a piece of paper and check it off as you go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So we've gained an extra half a level from watching that show. Watching shows does become less effective as time goes on, because obviously you need more XP for each level, which is where your skill books come in. And by reading skill books, you'll gain a multiplier for the skill gradually. So right now, if we find trapping, I haven't read enough to get a multiplier yet, but the more we read of that book, closer we'll get to multipliers that will help us with learning. Now, I believe we've looted those buildings already. Now, this is a blue building, which means that it's a community building of some sort. That could be things like a school, things like community centers, could be some sort of police department maybe. And I believe we looted these. I am going to go straight past them. Now, what building are we looking at here? Let's have a look. I believe, if I didn't know any better, I believe that would probably be the fire department. Be very careful going through these trees. Trees heavily reduce your vision, so you want to keep your ears open. Now, can we see many zombies? I don't see many zombies, which is actually interesting. Let's see if that stays true as we get closer. Usually I wouldn't risk going into places like this early, but we can scope it out from a distance. We can take our time with it. It is looking very quiet. Now, this could be on account of the alarm that went off earlier, because we're really not far from where that alarm went off when you think it's just here, which could have drawn over most of the zombies that were hanging out at the fire station previously. This fire department in Rosewood is also a fantastic opportunity to get our hands on some tools if the loot has stayed the same in build 42. So let's have a look. Looks like the zombies broke this door. So there were zombies here at some point, which reinforces the idea about the alarm. Knee pads already. These are a fantastic item. You can see that they give us a bit of defense, and I am just going to pause it while I'm explaining this, but you can see how they provide bite defense and scratch defense. You will also notice that they provide a little bit of discomfort. Now, this is a new thing they've added in build 42. Let's say, for example, you were to wear too many items that provide discomfort. Your character would slowly build a discomfort moodle, and that would be something that ideally we want to avoid, and it will start making them unhappy. So while these are good items, we do want to keep our eyes on it and not get too many of them or wear them for too long. And a firefighter zombie here. Now, firefighters tend to wear some very good protective gear. The condition on these ones, though, is not great. As you can see, the condition bar is very low. I could take them if I wanted to. I'm going to choose to forego them right now and see if we can find any others. But firefighters tend to have very good clothing, protection-wise, some of the best in the game in vanilla. So to preserve that clothing, we can use blunt weapons. See, these pants are perfect. A little bit dirty, they could do with a cleanup, but that's fine. Perfect condition. They'll provide us more protection. Also pretty good in terms of insulation. Sometimes can make you a bit too hot, even in the summer months, if you're not careful. So we'll see if that makes us hot. We've got a gardening trowel here. Could use that to plant some crops. We're not going to worry about that right now. Crops in build 42 have had their growing periods lengthened significantly on top of some other changes to the growing seasons as well. You actually need to keep an eye on what season you're growing your crops in, depending on the crop, for the best results. So we've got some perfect clothing here. This is really good in terms of protection values. We've got a firefighter axe here, not in great condition. This one too, you can see that this one is dull. However, they could still be handy for chopping down trees and getting us wood. Now, I'm not sure on the effect of different sort of durability on different parts of a weapon yet. That is something that I need to familiarize myself with on build 42, but I would imagine that a dull blade is not a good thing. We have found ourselves some alcohol. Best thing we can use that for is disinfecting rags. One of the many things that you should be on the lookout for. Might even go as far as to take this third one just to use most of the bottle. Not sure I really want to carry the rest around with me, so we'll leave that here. But what that's basically allowing me to do is it's disinfected these rags. We can actually disinfect the bandage too. Now I have a decent supply of disinfected bandages should I need them for a wound. This will keep infections away or help fight an existing infection. Combination padlock, we don't need to worry about that too much. First aid kit, and we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to cautiously explore the fire station. If I remember rightly, their quarters has a bookcase, so I'm interested in this. The other thing that we can consider at this point in time is we've actually been very lucky here looting this fire station. As we've identified already, it's perfectly clear. There's not too much going on here. And while I wouldn't usually advise moving safe house in the early game, it's perfectly possible for us to just stay at our current residence for a while. This would be an ideal opportunity to move to a safe house that has a lot more functionality to it. So I'm going to talk through a little bit of like what you need to identify a good safe house since we've got the opportunity. Usually I won't worry about this on day 2, but it seems silly to pass this up. Things we're looking for in a safe house. Ideally, appliances that are already in place that we don't need to mess around with. So we've already got a TV in here, right? So we don't need to worry about moving one of those in. We've got a fridge freezer. We've got 2 ovens. So we only really need 1. We've got running water. That's already perfect. And they're already in close proximity to a lot of storage containers, right? We've got all these cabinets, these shelves, this bookcase. We've got lockers in here. We have plenty of storage in one location, right? So all these other rooms are optional. We have everything we need in these couple rooms. We have tons of storage downstairs in the garage space. And what's great about this is this garage space gives us the opportunity to park up cars indoors in a safe area. The only downside currently that stands out to me is that one of the garage doors is destroyed. Now that could be a very big problem because in order for me to build a wall, I either need to build a log wall or to build a regular wooden wall, we need carpentry level 2. But because we've actually dedicated some time to watching TV, we're already almost at carpentry level 2. So this base all of a sudden becomes viable again, when it otherwise might not be because we've got an open area here. If we really wanted to, we can maybe park a vehicle across it just to buy us some time and deter the undead. Yeah, I think this is a very viable safe house location for us. The fire department in Rosewood is a timeless classic in the PZ community. Lots of people like to make their homes here just because it has everything. It's surrounded by a lot of open space, got plenty of storage, lots of appliances that we need. It's got beds, it's got running water. It is a very, very good option. So this loot run has definitely paid off for us. We've got ourselves some new protective gear. It's not going to be wearing out on us anytime soon. You can see here we are unpleasantly hot though, and this is what I was worrying about because by default we start in the summery months. So we can just take off this jacket for now. Just something to keep an eye on. I'm gonna get too hot. Of course, sweating for our character, which will wet all their clothes. Obviously on top of the rain, which will make us drink water a lot quicker. Means we need to top up more often. It's just a bit of a pain. Now, thankfully, we're not too far from home base, so it wouldn't be too hard to move. I think it's a good safe house location, and I do want to move us there, but I don't necessarily think we need to go right this second. It is a good option for us, but not a necessity right now. Now, we do have most of the tools we now need to do good carpentry work. In fact, we've got a duplicate here, but we've got a hammer, we've got an axe, and we've got a saw. Now, all we're missing really is nails, and then we'll be good to go on our carpentry, which would allow us to do some barricading and secure our safe house location. And that is really all we need. Now, it is getting around to 6 p.m, so since we're back at base, we might as well turn on life and living. Why not? Check if I have any other books that I can be reading in the meantime. Mechanics 1 probably would be a good one. I'm gonna read that. That's kind of the only one we've got right now that I think would be immediately useful. Let's take a seat here and do some more reading. Wait for life and living. It's got a nice cup of tea in real life as well. I'm wondering if this one is actually worth learning or not. What is this one going to be? Trapping, fishing, farming. Okay. This is actually, to be fair, this is actually one of the more useful ones. Now, the higher farming level we have, the more yield you'll get from crops. This is actually a half decent one to get. But farming is definitely, I would say, less useful in build 42 just because of how long crops take to grow now. That said, you can change their growing seasons if you like and change it back to how it was in build 41. Okay, so it is 6:30. We don't have much daylight left, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself and go too far. However, it's looking like this area is a little bit clearer now. So as we were talking about, oh, that's huge, actually. As we were talking about before, we're looking out for a car. Now, it looks like this one is wrecked. Cars in wrecks like this will never really be usable, but we have just found ourselves a gas can, which is massive. And I'm right-clicking on these cars just to see if it comes up with the option to siphon gasoline. We won't have what we need to do so, because we now need a hose like this one. But this in itself indicates that the car has gas. So this car does have gas. Some nails here, we'll grab those. So we need a hose. I'm struggling to remember if it was this house that had the alarm or whether it was the one next door. I'm gonna risk it. I think it was the one next door that had the alarm. Oh, this is a survivor house. A nice recipe there that we can grab as well. So usually places like this are an indication that it's a survivor house if they've stocked up on things like weapons, supplies. Yeah, see, they've got a gun here. We are gonna grab this. I don't think we're gonna get any use out of it. Guns are, in most situations, a death trap. Not always, not always. A lot of people think that like you should never use guns. That isn't true. You just need to have enough ammo. And enough ammo in Project Zomboid means a lot of ammo. Otherwise, it's not really worth it. Let's see here. Scalpel. And if you're ever wondering to yourself, like, do I have enough rounds for this? The answer is probably no, because by engaging in firearms combat, you are going to attract lots more zombies than you think. Now, this is great. A baseball bat with nails is a tried and true weapon for Project Zomboid survivors. We've got an extra keyring here, which is massive. And because of our keyring sorting system, we will need extra keyrings. So it's great to get that, and I think it has a bottle opener on the keyring, which is also useful. Knee pads, we've already got a couple of those, but you can see why like the survivor houses in general are useful. Now, good opportunity to talk about something else to do with muscle strain. Let's assume that our one-handed weapon, which it's not going to be the case, but let's assume that this lead pipe was actually 2 weight, and the baseball bat is 2 weight, or encumbrance. The two-handed weapon would build less muscle strain than the lead pipe. So two-handed weapons of the same weight will always build less muscle strain. Ooh, a butterfly knife. I've not even seen these. Low weight option, maybe? Oh, wow. This is huge. Knives are not a great option for direct combat nowadays because of muscle strain. You spend a lot of swings with knives. They have a high crit chance, but they will do less damage in general, and then you will spend more attacks. However, they work great for being up behind zombies for an assassination kill that will kill them in one hit and therefore use less muscle strain. Now, this is big. We have a bigger backpack here. We have nails and planks already pre-cut. So we could, at this point, we could very quickly barricade our house. We have everything we need here. I'm gonna double check, but I don't believe the key ring we picked up, I don't believe it has the keys to this. No, it doesn't. It'd be a vehicle key if there were, which is a shame because it'd be really cool to be able to get into this thing, but that's all right. Now we're gonna transfer all into the duffel bag and we're gonna switch bags. Duffel bags are larger. You can see here, this one reduces 70% encumbrance and has 15 capacity. A duffel bag, I believe off the top of my head, has 18 capacity. Yeah, 18 capacity. Slight reduction to the amount of encumbrance that it affects though, but I think overall it's still a worthwhile trade. And we'll grab this. We are 100% grabbing this box of nails, and we're gonna grab, I think, some planks. Be careful of encumbrance. We might build muscle strain here. If you get to the 3rd level of encumbrance, you will build muscle strain. Hold on now. Hold on now. Ah, okay. So this is a vehicle key, but it's for one of the wrecked cars here. You can find vehicle keys on the ground near cars like that, but it's for the wrecked one, which is a real shame. We now have the capability to barricade our safe house. Yes, this is temporary. We understand that now, but I think rather than moving everything we have here in storage by backpack and doing multiple runs to do so, we temporarily barricade this building instead. It is a decision that I'm making purely because I don't want to waste time running several runs of loot over to the fire station. We are going to grab our hammer from storage. Now, if you're wondering why I picked up the pack of beer, basically it's something that I can use to reduce boredom and unhappiness in a pinch, and beer is relatively low alcohol, so I won't get my characters too drunk. We're going to apply 2 barricades to each window, and we're going to apply them on the outside. Now, by applying them on the outside, what this does is it means that zombies will break the barricades first before they break the window, keeping the window intact. Doesn't really matter which way you want to do it, but I like to do this because keeping the window intact, I think it looks nicer, right? It's just a little aesthetic thing. And also, by keeping it to 2 barricades, we can see through the barricades. As soon as we add a third one, we will no longer be able to see through this window. The only additional option you have, if you would like to, is you can barricade this side of the window too. Doing that will apply 4 barricades and still allow us to look out of the window because we've got 2 on each side, and it will effectively double the protection that the window has. It is entirely optional. I mean, at this point, we don't really have to worry about that too much, and we can just apply like 2 barricades, okay? I'm gonna go back for some more planks, and our focus right now is going to be this broken window. We're getting around to the end of the day here. We're getting tired, so I'm not going to waste time cutting down trees right now. But on day 3, I think we spend a little bit of time putting up some barricades and leveling a little bit of carpentry. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we don't have the skill multiplier from a book. If we had the skill multiplier, I would go wild on carpentry right now and just barricade the whole building, but that isn't the case. Now I'm going to eat all of this ham. 1, because it's going to go off soon, and 2, because having this full to bursting will increase our carry weight, which is going to be helpful here. I'm going to ignore this zombie just for a minute because it's more important to me to get some barricades up right now. Again, I would put them on the outside usually, but this window's already broken, so I'm not too worried about seeing out of this window too, so we're going to apply the extra barricades here. It's taking a very weird path to get to us, but that's okay. Just going to bang on that barricade that we've just put up. That's fine. We've got a minute. I am going to do this for demonstration purposes. It is not something that I would necessarily recommend. I think it would be better to just spend a little bit of extra time maybe looking for the keys. But just to demonstrate, what we can do if we really wanted to get in this vehicle, because I think there's a key in here, I can come up alongside the passenger window. It's important that it's the passenger, and I can smash the window. This will give me entrance to the vehicle. I can then slide over to the driver's seat. I can unlock all the doors, and I can check to see if there's a key. So no key, again, just for demonstration purposes, but there is always a chance. And by breaking the passenger side window, what that's done is that's preserved the safety of the driving position. If there were a key, I would still be safe in the driver's seat. Now I'm going to pull down some extra sheets here from this survivor house, since they've covered the windows for us so kindly. We're going to take these extra sheets and we're going to go and apply them to our safe house instead, because waste not, want not. And all this is going to do is this is going to cut off the zombies' vision of our movement inside our safe house. I would argue that doing this is actually more important than barricading, because if they can't see you, they've got no reason to come banging on your window. They might still do it. They do get drawn over to random things like this sometimes, and that's fine. But this is just heavily reducing the chance that it's going to happen. We're going to focus on the downstairs windows. All of those closed. We're coming around to midnight, and just like that, all of our downstairs windows are covered, and we've still got 1 left. Ah, here we go. There is an extra window downstairs. Let's cover this one. 2 options for adding sheets there. That's probably a bug. And we've got the front door window as well, but I think we're out of, yeah, we're out now. So we managed to cover most of them. That's great. Now, I'm not too worried about catching the cooking show, because to be honest, like, cooking XP is a nice to have, not a necessity. I would rather get more sleep and give us more looting time right now. I'm gonna pick this bed because the windows are covered. I'm gonna put down our pillow for an extra sleeping bonus. It's coming around to midnight, sleep with pillow, and just like that, we're going into day 3. We should wake up very soon. 9:20. see. Not a bad sleep. He's got a nice lay-in for day 3. So to recap, we got ourselves some tools for building, the necessities for barricading our windows, covering our windows to cut off vision of the zombies. We had a look for a car. That is currently our biggest goal right now, is we want to keep our eyes open for a vehicle so that we can progress as we like. We haven't had any luck there yet. We do, however, have a gas can. We need a hose to allow us to siphon from a vehicle in the future if we need some gas for our cars. And we know that the vehicle across the street has some gas in it. We've got a little bit more food going for us. We got a bottle opener, and we found the place that we would potentially like to make a more permanent safe house when we get round to moving. And we have made the decision right now, we are going to move there when we get a vehicle, okay? Because it would be easier to move our stuff over and we wouldn't spend so much time doing so. We could do it all in maybe one trip. And I think that about sums up our day. Oh, and some more protective clothing too, which is great. So that sums up day 2. Day 3, perhaps, we'll go a little bit further afield and try to find ourselves a vehicle and get a little bit more brave with it. So stay tuned for that. If you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to comment. Let me know that you want another one. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all in the next one.